Hey everyone, Doug here, starting with the live question and answer video stream. It's live questions for topics related to live event video production, multi-camera video production in particular. Um, be sure and leave your questions in the comment section of the video in the chat, and I'll be monitoring that to be able to answer the questions that you have. In the future, if you want to get questions in ahead of time, you can send those to me on Twitter. The Twitter account for this channel is DJP_video. And I'll be sure and answer questions as best I possibly can. So before I get into any questions, just a quick update on the channel. It's been a little quiet for the last couple of weeks. Main reason for that is I just had a lot going on. And these days, since I'm producing most of my videos in 4K, they take a lot longer to make than they used to. Not for shooting, not because of the shooting, but mostly because of rendering and uploading. You know, these videos are 4 times the size that they used to be, so the editing process on a 10-minute video can take 45 minutes to an hour, and then uploading can take nearly as long, and then having to wait for YouTube to process it, it does take quite a while. So there are plenty of videos on the way. I've got a spreadsheet of different topics that I want to address, and there's over a dozen different things that are on there, things that I'm going to be doing. Haven't gotten to yet, but they are coming. All right, so let's see. First question, I can answer here. Have you tried the BM Micro Studio camera? Yes, in fact, most of the videos on this channel have been shot over the last 8 months or so on the Micro Studio camera. This one is not. This one I'm shooting on the Sony PXW Z150. I've been using the Z150 for promotional videos that I'm shooting here in the trailer. But normally I use the Blackmagic Micro Studio camera, and I assume you want some thoughts from me on it. So, it does okay, and the picture's always a little bit soft. It's always fairly noisy, and requires a lot of light. I've got the equivalent of about 600 watts of light on me right now, and even with that much light, that camera, I still have to boost to its maximum gain. I have to open the aperture on the lens all the way up and reduce the frame rate to 30 frames per second. Even if I drop it to 60, the picture gets too dark and too noisy. So they call it a studio camera for a reason. It really needs studio conditions, studio lighting, in order to produce a decent quality image. So, all right. Any other questions here? So yeah, there is a lot of latency on the feed. I'm dealing with some bandwidth limitations here today. My Comcast internet, the bandwidth is inconsistent, and so. Let's see. I need no other questions. Let's see. Okay, lack of light down to the lens choice. Not necessarily, because the lens that I use, it's an f3.5, so reasonably fast. I mean, obviously you can get faster lenses, but then you start to deal with shallow depth of field. So, you know, it's a compromise. Just the Blackmagic cameras historically have required an awful lot of light. It's just kind of the way they are. I hear that some of the newer ones are a little better. I hear the Ursa Broadcast is better, and the Ursa Mini Pros are better. Still not amazing. They still require more light than a lot of other cameras do, but yeah, the Blackmagic cameras do require more light than most. All right, comment from Danny. Update Livestream Studio you consulted on beginning years up and running. That's awesome. I've been meaning to ask you about that and see how it was going. So, Almanox asking if I have any experience with Ursa Broadcast. I have not personally used it, and the main reason I haven't is, well, really low light. I looked when it came out. I looked over the specs, and it appeared that they hadn't done anything to improve the noise or the low light sensitivity on that compared to the Ursa Mini Pro, and therefore it wouldn't work in a lot of the situations that I shoot in. So yeah, you have to have a pretty fast lens, and again, as mentioned, once you get into those really fast lenses, you got to be a lot more careful with focus, and that's something that's hard to deal with in a live environment. So. Okay, Bert asking if I've used the Panasonic 45 to 175 millimeter. I have not used that particular lens. I forget which lenses I have. I have about 3 of them. I know I have one of their wider zooms, like a 14 to 50 or 60. I can't remember that. I can't remember exactly what it is, but yeah, you have. I mean, you really have to get a fast lens in order for those micro studio cameras to work in what you consider normal lighting. I mean, this lighting here is actually very bright, and the camera still doesn't do that great. Okay. Almanox asking if I have any news about my replay setup. I haven't worked on it. I just haven't had any events where I've needed it. That's kind of, I've got so many different things going on that I kind of address things like that as needed. So if somebody hired me to do an event that where I needed that, I'd quick throw something together to get it finished. And it's not it's not going to take me that much time to finish it. I just haven't had the need, so I haven't done it. So okay. Bjorn asking, how do I shade or color match my cameras before a multicam live event? Well, okay, so the cameras that I normally use for multicam events are my Sony PXW Z150s, and then a Sony PXW X70, and then I have some Sony PTZs SRG 300 SE. The Z150s, you can save the camera settings on an SD card. So I'll get one camera set up exactly the way that I want, copy the settings to an SD card, and then go and load those settings into the other camera so I know that they're absolutely identical. The X70, those files are not compatible, so I always have to set it up manually. But traditionally what I like to do is bring in a nice big sheet of white poster board and then white balance against that. So I'll set that up and then point all the cameras at that and then white balance off of that. So that works pretty well. Any differences between the Z150s and the 300 SE, the PTZ? When I need to, when I have time, I'll use my LUTmath.com website in order to produce a LUT to create a look for the 300 SE that's similar to the Z150s. So it's not a perfect solution, but it does work better than just running the cameras without it. So I've got a video here on the channel about color matching cameras. You might want to take a look at that. Okay, let's see. Danny Grizzle, BMD Ultra Studio 4K is not 4K for cut and fill. That's unfortunate. I did not know that. I hadn't tried it. I've only used it for 1080p. Okay, GoWeb Technologies. Any views on Epiphan Mini Encoder and Recorder? I have personally not used that. Danny Grizzle, who's in the chat, was looking at it. Yeah, he mentioned that. He's using the Pearl Mini. So you can ask him about that. So, all right. Let's see. I've been doing live switching for a specific DJ lately. We can't really stream live because YouTube would cut the stream down when other artists' music get played. That is a big problem with using a platform like YouTube. And so how do DJ sets use the clearance from YouTube? You pretty much have to work out with the original artist to get the rights to use the music. That's about the only real option you got. So yeah, so Tom Sykes is saying you use Vimeo for music jobs. They don't pull live streams with music. That's a good solution. Yeah, thanks, Tom. Okay, thoughts on Sling TV, wireless streaming, and switching hardware. I've actually used that before. It was a job I got hired for back, I think it was September. They had already purchased the Sling hardware, and I was actually pleasantly surprised with how well it worked. We were in a really noisy Wi-Fi environment, and it actually worked reasonably well. I don't think we had any issues with glitching or anything like that. It was a little bit of a bear to set up, a little bit tough to get it all up and running, but it did work. And yeah, the client was pretty happy with what we ended up with. So we just took the camera adapter, put it on the top of one of my Z150s, and roamed around this convention center floor that we were on, and the stream worked fine. So we were pretty happy with that. So I think that's actually a cool product if somebody doesn't need a dedicated hardware switcher. All right, Aminox asking, where am I on the video versus live use solo religious war? I've been really frustrated with Teradek over the last several months. Their firmware updates on their products have been incredibly unstable, very, very buggy. At this point, am telling people not to buy the Teradek products. Even if the Video Go does work okay, with their history, with the way they've handled firmware issues, I just can't recommend a Teradek product for live streaming at this point. And everything I hear about the Live Use Solo is amazing. I haven't used one personally. I've tried to get one in for review. They're not super responsive. I did talk to them at NAB about that, and they said maybe. But they weren't super enthusiastic about it. Like I say, I'm trying to get one in. We'll see if I'm able to do that. But right now, it's not looking super promising. I do know that when I go to buy another encoder, live encoder, that's what I'm going to buy. That's going to be the next purchase I have when I need to get a newer encoder. Let's see. Bird asking if I've used any wireless HDMI or SDI systems. Yes, I have. I've actually got a review video here on the channel of the Cinegears 200M. It's the Ghost Eye series 200M, and that has worked really well. The one thing you're going to run into, you're going to find out that pretty much all these systems have the same internal chipset, and they work pretty much the same. There's not a lot of variation between them. There's some variation due to good implementations of the radio transmission and receiving antennas and so forth. But in terms of the way they function, they're all kind of the same. So, but anyway, I've been real happy with the Cinegears. At one point, I had purchased a Cinegears system that didn't work well, and my issue with their support department was significant. I had some real issues. They've since ironed that out. All the people that were working there at the time are gone, and they have great people working there now. So, yes, if you're looking for a wireless solution, I wholeheartedly do recommend the Cinegears Ghost Eye series. They work great. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, Tom Sykes, live view all the way. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. So, hey, Satender, how's it going? And then Danny saying even if you have music rights, the bots will bite you. That is true. So even if you do have the rights to music on your live stream, the bots will shut you down, and you have to wait for approval from the people who own the music before your video can be put back up. So. Okay, Aminox. Knowing you have set up the technological backend to be able to handle the Ultra HD at 30 frames, I'm curious, how much do you actually use it for jobs? Almost never. I'm using it right now. Like pretty much all the videos that I produce for my own YouTube channel, I do in Ultra HD. And you're not seeing the live stream in Ultra HD, but the stuff that I produce for myself, I do in Ultra HD. But in terms of clients that have wanted, that have hired me, I have never actually had anybody want live switched Ultra HD. I've had a few that want the isolated cameras in 4K, but in terms of live streaming, it just hasn't happened. Part of the reason for that is I don't have all the equipment that I need to make it easy to get 4K into my trailer. The Blackmagic camera converter boxes that I use, the little silver boxes, do not support 4K, and they don't have a replacement product that does. And so I'm stuck. If I want to just do a single fiber strand per camera and not run multiple strands, I'm stuck to 1080p up to 60 frames a second. But in terms of what clients have asked for, none of them have cared about 4K. They don't know what to do with it if they had it, for the most part. So it hasn't really been a thing. Yeah, so Tom is linking to his blog about RTMP issues. Tom's a great source for that. He's had a lot of good information he's posted in the comments here on the channel over time. So if you guys have questions about live streaming, especially with like the Live View Solo and Teradek and their issues, Tom's got a lot of great information there. Almanox asking if I've considered upgrading the intercom to a matrix solution, possible Dante variant. I've considered it, but the system I got right now works well enough that it just isn't. It'd be difficult to justify the cost of moving to a system like that. So, yeah, it'd be awesome to have Matrix. I would love that. And for anybody who's wondering, Matrix basically allows you to create little subgroups within your intercom system so that people can talk to each other individually, or you can have your camera operators on one channel and then have your audio people on another channel. However you want to divide it up. So it's a pretty cool idea. In practice, it hasn't been something that I've missed. It's something that I would seriously consider moving to just because of the cost at this point. I would like to eventually, but right now it's just not in the cards. And Danny's saying that Teradek used to be Primo. That is true. They were great at one point, but these days, not so great. And then let's see. Thanks, Harry, for your comment there. Danny saying that Pearl Mini, that's from Epiphan, does RTMPS, no problem. So anybody who's doing Facebook live streaming, you need RTMPS these days. So, Yeah, so it's good. It's good that most of the manufacturers out there are supporting that. The Teradek VDU, the original one that I'm actually doing this stream on, does not do RTMPS. So when I need to do Facebook live streaming, I have to use a different solution. So Mark Edge asking how I deal with wireless comms to go with a wireless camera setup. So I basically use an in-ear monitor system that normally we use by musicians when they're performing on stage. So I hook up the audio output of my intercom system to an in-ear monitor transmitter, and then each of the camera operators wears a body pack. And I've got some nice systems that I can use, but traditionally I use kind of a less expensive system. I think I paid $1,000 for it, and it's got 4 receivers. It's not diversity, but for intercom you don't need that. And just people plug in whatever headsets they happen to like. So it works actually pretty well. So okay. Harry asking for a shout out. Hey, how's it going, Harry? Let's see. Almanox, getting 4K to the truck. You could send the mini converter 12G and handle return through a camera converter. Yes, that's exactly what I would have to do. But that would mean 2 separate runs of fiber, because I would still need to do return fiber. Well, still need to run fiber from the camera converter for intercom. So I would essentially have to run 3 fiber strands to each camera, and with a limited number of strands that I can run to and from the trailer, that's just kind of impractical. So let's see. Kresimir asking if I can suggest headsets for commentators sitting next to a loud boxing ring for less than 250 euros. Gosh, that's going to be tough. You're going to want something that's got a directional cardioid mic on it. I'm not aware of good options off the top of my head. Like the headsets that I use here in the trailer, these are actually meant for that sort of situation, except these mics pick up everything, so they wouldn't be good for that. These guys, the Biodynamics, they probably wouldn't work well for that either. They'd be better, but these are a little bit difficult to use with a lot of these systems because they require a lot of gain for the headphones, and the microphones are rather quiet, and it's an impedance mismatch issue. So that'd be tough. Let's see. Okay, Bert asking if I've had problems with the ATEM Television Studio HD where it just locked up. I have not ever seen that. I would definitely contact Blackmagic about that. That's not normal behavior. Okay, recommendation on CDN with paywall. I don't have a great solution for that. So anyway, so CDN's content delivery network, basically asking how to do paid videos on the internet. I'm still trying to figure out a solution for that. I'm actually going to be putting that feature on my Crew Access website for my customers. Yeah, and I don't have a great solution. I was talking to the people at Wowza at NAB, and they have some pretty good ways of locking things down. It would require some custom software development on the front end on the website, but it is possible. They are a little on the expensive side, so if you're looking for a budget solution, they may not be ideal. But one thing that I have done is YouTube videos and do an unlisted link and then wrap that in a website. That works reasonably well. Vimeo can also do that as well. Nice thing about Vimeo is they have a way to protect the streams so that they can't be viewed unless they're coming from a specific website. So that's a better solution than YouTube, but I don't have a great solution for you, unfortunately. Sorry. Okay, see. Danny commenting about the X-Air, the Dugan style auto mix. Yes, that is awesome. And I do use that as part of my intercom. So if you're curious about that auto mix capability, go and watch my video on the budget intercom for my trailer. So, okay. Harry asking, so he has the ATEM. Is there any software you can use to run single title studio? I'm not familiar with that, unfortunately. Let's see. Tom suggesting Cole's mic for boxing. Yeah, I haven't used that. I'll go off of Tom's recommendation on that. And then Danny mentioned that headsets with cardioid mics are expensive. Yeah, that's kind of what I've seen. I haven't seen any budget solutions for that. So, and then Almanacs, best commentary headset. Sennheiser HMD 26. I guess that's a 2. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of people commenting about that. That's one of the great things about this channel. You guys help each other out. So, I mean, I don't produce every type of event, so I haven't had to deal with every situation that might come up. So, yeah. So, I guess I'm caught up on questions. So, anyway, some of the videos come up on here on the channel. I've got one I'm going to be doing here in the next week or two on Zoom controllers for Sony and Canon camcorders. I've tested quite a number of those over the years, and some are definitely better than others. And I've got some recommendations, and probably not what people expect. I've mentioned my solution here on the channel a couple of times before in the past, but I wanted to do a video on why I ended up with the ones that I did, because they're not what people expect. And I get a lot of flack from camera operators when they first use the ones that I've selected, and they eventually come around to my point of view in the long run. So, Almanac commenting that Vimeo has a paywall option. Yeah, the Vimeo solution that I would mention, you wouldn't be using Vimeo for the paywall. You'd just be using them for the live stream. The nice thing about Vimeo is that they have the option to lock streams down to a specific website. So, if somebody was to share a link from a paid stream to somebody else, they wouldn't be able to watch it. So, it's not perfect, not a perfect solution, and it's probably ways to defeat it, but it'd be very difficult and require somebody with a lot of technical skills in order to be able to do that. So, let's see. So some other things I've been working on recently. I've been working on my Crew Access website quite a bit. I just posted a video on my Crew Access YouTube channel this morning talking about new features I've added in 2019, and there's a lot of cool stuff there that's going to makes the site a lot more useful for a lot more people. So if you guys are looking for software to help you run your video production businesses, I strongly encourage you to go check out the Crew Access website and the YouTube channel. I have a dedicated YouTube channel just for that, and the site is ever expanding, and I'm getting absolutely tremendous feedback from people who use it. Absolutely glowing reviews. People seem to really love it. So, all right, Crash Landon asking, how long have I been running my own production company? What the hardest part of starting up? So I've had my formal production company now for 3 years. I've been doing live video production for almost 20 years at this point. Starting in the late 90s through mid 2000s, I was essentially just doing it as a favor to people and organizations that I had relationships with, and I wasn't trying to run it as a full-time business, but I was still doing events pretty often. And at that point, I was still just doing standard definition, and I got really busy with a full-time job from 2007 till 2015, and when that was a software development job, and when I got burned out on that, I decided I wanted to get back into video production full-time, and so that's kind of where we've gone. So at that point, I invested in all 4K gear. I skipped HD only entirely. So yeah, I went from standard def, and I had a pretty cool setup that I basically designed myself. So I used an off-the-shelf video switcher, but almost everything else was my own custom solution. I had my own custom solution for sending video and intercom and tally over a Cat5 cable. And so one Cat5 cable did video, but in 2 directions, intercom, tally, and audio all over a single cable. And then when I got too busy with software, I sold all that gear, and then starting in 2015, I started building up the gear again, and this time all in 4K. And I've been doing that as kind of my main career for the last 3+ years at this point, nearly 3.5. So, in terms of getting started up, the main hardest thing has been finding customers. People who need video production tend to find one company that they use to do it, and they stick with them as long as they don't screw up. And so, breaking into the market can be a little bit hard. But fortunately, I had contacts. I've had contacts, people that I've worked with in the past that were happy to bring me back when I got back into it, and word of mouth since then. So. The hardest part of running a video production business is finding the clients. Unfortunately, as long as you don't mess up, they tend to keep coming back. So most of my clients in 2019 have been people that I've worked with in the past. So, but yeah, that is the real challenge. The gear is not so much of a challenge. It's more or less easy enough to find what you need. But yeah, finding the clients is probably the hardest part. Okay, let's see. Danny pitching crew access. That's awesome. Appreciate it. So, okay. Pietro asking if I have any experience with the YouTube Premiere feature. I haven't actually used that yet. I've seen it. YouTube has recommended to me that I use it a number of times. I haven't used it mainly just because I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily see a huge benefit to it. I guess you get the live interaction as opposed to just uploading a video, but. When channel has just under 6,000 subscribers like mine, and your views on most of your videos range between 1,000 and 2,000 views, I don't know that necessarily makes a lot of sense, but it's something maybe I'll try at some point in the future. We'll see. So. Okay, Almanox asking what would you look to for a live graphics engine? My answer to that's going to be different than most people. Since I have a software development background, I create my own. So I've had a piece of software I've been using since 2004 for doing graphics, and I designed it to be resolution independent, so it worked fine for standard def, it works great for high def, and it works for 4K as well. And it handles most of the situations that I encounter, and when I do encounter a situation, something that it doesn't already do, I just make it do it. I just add the capability to it. So again, my solution for that is going to be a little bit different than most, since I have that tool that I've created and I have the software development background to pull from. So there are a lot of different packages out there. I've used Casper CG a few times to fill in some holes. Yeah, there's some simpler stuff out there. If you want something that's free, you can go to the Here to Record channel. John Barker over there, he's created something that's really easy to use. It's web browser based. It's free, so that's a pretty cool option for people who are looking for something simple. Yeah, but there's tons of other solutions out there as well. So unfortunately I haven't used any of them since I have my own solution that I use that works quite well. So yeah. Don't have any other questions at the moment. So let's see, what else have I been working on? So yeah, if you guys haven't already subscribed to my email mailing list it's not just for, I have crew access things on there, but I also have things for DJP as well. And like, for example, this live stream, I sent email message out 2 days ago with a link to this and a reminder that it was coming up. So you can get to that at djp.li/email. And it's a pretty cool little tool there. I've got about, I think it's 9 different mailing lists that you can sign up for about different types of topics. So, all right. So I'm asking when I'm going to sell 4K replay software. So the software that I'm creating is it doesn't actually process the video. It's just controlling a piece of hardware. So it's actually totally resolution and frame rate independent. It doesn't care. So at some point I'll make that available. I'm going to have to put it through a lot of testing before I'm willing to do that. I like to have my software be pretty polished before I make it available, and it's not anywhere near that at this point. So, okay, so Bert asking if there's going to be upcoming behind-the-scenes Real Sessions episodes again. Real Sessions actually shut down. They got to the point where they weren't able to hire enough people to justify the cost to keep it going, so I wouldn't say it's totally dead, but the guy who runs it, a guy named Sean Barrows, his basically put it on hold indefinitely. It was a cool project. So those who haven't seen it, is basically the idea was basically to give recording artists a way to produce music videos quickly and inexpensively. So they would pay for an hour of time in a recording studio. I think they paid $600 for it. No, $600 here in Utah. When they did it in other cities, they charged more. Utah market's always a lot cheaper than everywhere else in terms of that kind of thing. But the recording artists pay for an hour of time in a recording studio, and the studio would record their audio, and then we'd bring multiple cameras in, live switch the event, and basically within a matter of a day or two, the artist would have a fully ready to go music video of their performance in the studio. It's a great solution for people that were up and coming, because not only are they getting a video that they can share with their fans, they could also use that for trying to land deals, record deals and whatnot. So it was a pretty cool idea, but it got to the point where they were having a hard time finding new artists to come in for it, so they put the project on hold. That was one of my favorite projects to work on. That was awesome. They were doing it at least once a month there for most of 2018, but they haven't done one since August, so it's been a while. And yeah, that was a nice gig to be on. So unfortunately, they're not doing it anymore. Okay. Let's see, Danny's asking me, saying Mimo live. I don't, yeah, to feed, cut, and fill ATM via BMD Ultra Studio 4K. Need an Extreme 3 for 4K. Yeah, so you're talking about graphics, so doing overlays. So okay, any updates on BMD HyperDeck Studio Mini? They haven't done any software update in a while. They've made a lot of changes since I did my initial video of it here on the channel. It's probably deserving of an entirely new video. It's like when I first did the video about that, it only supported ProRes for its recording format. Since then, they've added DNxHD and DNxHR, and also H.264, as well as some other enhancements. So it's kind of a different product than it was at that point. Probably deserving of its own review. But Blackmagic hasn't done any software updates on it for a few months now. So not much to say in terms of what's new. Okay. Let's see, ES Media asking if I came from a web design background for the creation of Curaxis. Sort of. I've been doing software development for 42 years. Yeah, since 1977. Yeah. So I've worked in a lot of different areas. A lot of my software development has been contract for different clients and different projects, and so the types of projects that I've worked on have been kind of all over the map. That said, from 2007 until 2016, I was working on a project for one of the largest pizza chains in the world. I created their point of sale and also a lot of the back of house software, and a lot of that was web-based. So the reporting, the configuration, a lot of the HR, the inventory, a bunch of the pieces were web-based, and so I really learned an awful lot about web development from that project. And of course, I do my own websites as well. And Curaxis was really created. Initially, I didn't create that to sell it. I created it just for my own use. And then I had enough people who'd seen it, like, that's pretty cool, you ought to sell that. So at that point, I decided that's what I was going to do. I was going to make it available for other people now. And at this point, it's got over 100 clients, 100 companies who are using it. And yeah, it's a relatively small percentage that are on the paid plan, but I think people are pretty happy with it overall. And it continues to expand pretty rapidly. I'm adding major new features every couple of weeks. So let's see. Okay, things are moving pretty fast. What recommendations do I have for a small and lighter headset for control room? Well, if you're in a control room, you don't have to worry about noise, so you can pretty much get whatever headsets you like, whatever you think has the right aesthetics and whatnot. So here in the trailer, we use these Ars Technicas, but these are not exactly what we'd call super lightweight or inexpensive. They're $200 a pair. cheap computer headsets tend to work fine as long as you have a way to interface them with your hardware. Okay, let's see. Krismir asking, how much do I use my PTZ cameras, and were they a good investment? I use them a lot, actually. So, for budget reasons, a lot of times we can only have 3 camera operators for a lot of events. So I'll typically do is set up 3 cameras with operators. One that's kind of a static wide shot, and then 2 PTZs, so I can fill in randomly with other shots. The PTZs are especially nice when I need to stick a camera somewhere where it would be inconvenient to stick a person. So it's really nice to do that. So very often I'll stick PTZs up front in a venue, so like near whatever we're shooting. You can sometimes, quite often, actually stick them up on stage. They're small enough that they're just kind of out of the way and people don't really notice them. So it's nice to be able to get those shots without having to have a camera operator. But yeah, they're kind of something I'd use as standard for most of my multicam events whenever the setup time allows it. So the ones I use is Sony SRG 300 SE. They work relatively well in good lighting. When you start to get the dim lighting, they'll still give you an image, but it's rather noisy, and the colors start to become a little bit washed out. So it's going to depend on your situation whether they're worth it. The Sony does have some higher-end ones, like the BRC X1000, which is more or less the same imager that you find in the X70, Sony X70. So it has really good image quality, but the cameras, even street price, are about $8,000 a piece. So it'd be difficult to justify those for the types of clients that I have. Eventually, I would like to get there, but for right now, it's just not in the cards. For somebody else who has the budget for that kind of thing, PTZs are a great option to have. They just allow you to get a few more shots that you would be able to get otherwise, and without having to pay the labor of another camera operator. So, let's see. Aminox, what are your experiences working with Dante setup via the Yamaha mixer? Once it's working, it's phenomenal. It works great. I have had a few issues when I first turn it on, getting the mixer not to connect to the stage box, but to enable head amp control. So being able to turn phantom power on and off, change the gain. I'm always able to resolve it, but sometimes it requires a couple of reboots, and even the latest 4.0 firmware still hasn't resolved that. But that said, I have no regrets about switching to that whatsoever. It is, like I say, once it's up and running, it's great. It works really well. The sound quality is amazing. I wouldn't do anything else at this point. Okay, let's see. Doug, what would be your preferred format to feed a projector over 100 feet away? SDI, HD base T. I like SDI because that's what I'm using for everything else. But anything that works for you. If you already got Cat 5 cable run, yeah, why not use HD base T? So 150 feet. 150 feet is kind of getting towards the end of the length that you can run HD base T, but it does work. So. Yeah, it's a little more expensive than going SDI, to be honest. SDI, you can get the converters for around $40 a piece for each end, and then the cable's pretty cheap too. So, SDI would be the way I'd personally go, but HD base T does work out as well. Okay, Danny's saying that the HyperDeck Studio Mini is slick with the ATEM. That's true. That's pretty cool. Let's see, Aminox asking when I'm going to release the long-promised in-depth tutorial about setting up the network. I've got quite a few videos on the channel already about that. I'm not sure how much more I could discuss about that. So if you look back to the one that has the most details is one, I think it's from October of 2017, from the trailer construction video. It's the second or third one that I released, where I actually talk about the VLANs and running over fiber. It goes into quite a bit of detail. So if that one doesn't have the answers you're looking for, let me know, and I'll see what I can do to answer your questions. Okay, so GoWeb asking the list if I can share the list of SD cards that work for you in the HyperDeck Studio Mini. Just go to Blackmagic's website, go to the support section under the site, and they have a list of recommended SD cards. Some of the latest cards from SanDisk have had some problems with the HyperDecks. So at this point, it's hard to recommend any of the SanDisk cards because compatibility is kind of up in the air. The Lexar ones, as long as you get the faster ones, they work. They seem to work fine. And I know somebody else that I work with on a regular basis, they've been able to get some PNY cards to work. PNY is kind of a lower end brand, but they've had some pretty good luck with the PNY cards. So, but yeah, just stick with Blackmagic's approved list. There's plenty of choices on there, and they've certified those cards to work. So I would just go after that. Okay, see. Almanac asking if I can actually live off my video production income. More or less. I don't have a whole lot of software income coming in these days. So I am almost exclusively living off of video production related income at this point. So I have enough events going on to provide enough to live off of. It's not a great living just from that, but it is enough. I've got events almost once a week. A lot of them are smaller, but I have events about once a week. And then on top of that, I've got some money coming in. A little bit here from the YouTube channel, not much. And then a little bit from Crew Access as well. So between those, I could get by with just that. I am still supplementing some income with some other software development. So I'm asking for a decent master clock. Masterclock.com. You've probably seen the clock. You can't see it in the shot here, but clock from Master Clock. I've loved it. It's worked great, and they're quite a bit less expensive than the other brands that are out there. So you can get one from them. Okay, Danny recommending the Sony cards. Yeah, I hear good things about the Sony as well. ES Media asking if I have a dedicated operator for PTZ cameras for those types of events. Most of the time, no. Most of the time, I just have I use an Xbox controller to control them, and I just have the Xbox controller next to me whenever I'm working. If I have enough staff, I'll have somebody else fill in as the director role. It's not my favorite thing to do, and I'm also not that great at it. So if I can have someone else do director, I'll do that, and then I'll do PTZ, audio, and engineering, and sometimes graphics at the same time. So if I have enough staff, the first position that I fill is director, and then I take over everything else. So Crash asking if I have any tips on converting a USB PTZ camera to HDMI SDI. Oh gosh, that's going to be... I'm not sure how there's no official standard for video coming over USB, and I'm not aware of any USB to HDMI or SDI converters. I mean, you could always run it through a computer and then capture the output of the computer, but that's going to be tricky. Okay, Danny asking if I'm doing video for outdoor projection in a large venue live concerts. Probably not as big as you'd think, but I have done quite a few outdoor concerts as well. And have we done IMAG on those? I think we have. So, yeah, it's really not a big deal to do IMAG for something like that, because basically just you plug into an HDMI jack somewhere and you get the video up on the screens that way. I've never provided my own screens for that. I don't have the right gear for that. I mean, I have some okay projectors. They're a little old at this point, but for the most part, like if I'm doing IMAG, I'm reliant on somebody else to provide the equipment for the screens themselves. But yeah, we have hooked in for IMAG quite a few times. So, all right, Evan asking what SDI converter do we recommend? So, in the $40 range, just get the Blackmagic ones. They work really well. So the Blackmagic micro converters, about $40 a piece, and the HDMI SDI. They have converters that go both ways. They work great. So, let's see. Multistage asking if I have used the Tyler's Live Social, and I have not. I assume you're asking that because for its social integration. I've never actually done social integration. It's not something any of my clients have asked for. If somebody did, again, I would probably just modify my own graphic software to handle that. So, okay, Aminox, are you missing lens choices when working in different venues using non-interchangeable cameras, or I'm able to work around it? The zoom on the Sony PXW Z150s that I use works pretty well in most situations. Especially because in most situations I'm able to set up the camera close enough. I don't necessarily have to go all the way to the back. In situations where I do have to be further away, that's when I break out my Ursa Mini and put a long lens on that. I have a 150 to 600 millimeter lens that I put on Ursa Mini, and with that lens I can basically see nose hairs across a stadium. So it's not been an issue for me as a company because I have that as an option. But if I had to be in a large venue using just my Z150s and I had to be in the back, that could be a bit of an issue. If I was hired for an event like that, I'd probably rent, well, not just probably, I would rent some other cameras for that, because like those cameras, the Z150s are really not meant for that. I'd probably get, I'm not sure what I'd get, but I'd definitely get something else. So Media Apex Productions saying hi, hello. And Bert saying he wants to be a software tester. Let's see. Amanos asking if I'm happy with the build of the trailer, or would I have done more sound installation in hindsight. It would have been nice. If I had known when I designed it what I know now, I probably would have put an additional layer of sound insulation on the floor. The walls are absolutely great about blocking out outside sound. Most of the sound that's coming in now comes in through the vibration of the floor. I'd also like to do another layer for temperature insulation, insulation from the outside world. Right now on the floor of the trailer, there is an inch of foam, a layer of sheet metal, and then 3/4 inch of they call it dry max. It's wood. It's a wood-based product. So there's more than an inch and a half, almost 2 inches worth of material there. And even then, some of the sound still gets through, and some of the cold from outside. It's kind of a cold day outside, and I can feel the cold coming up from down underneath. But other than that, the walls are great. The walls have worked as good as, probably better than planned, in terms of insulation for sound and for temperature as well. So I'm pretty happy with that. Jerry asking if I've used PTZ cameras wirelessly. I never have, actually, so I've always been able to run cables for those. The tricky part about that is you have to run signal as well as video. So, yeah, my cameras, the cameras that I use actually are controlled using IP over an Ethernet network, so it wouldn't be that hard to do wireless for that, and then I could use a wireless transmitter for the SDI. But I've never had to do that, so I've got the gear, it's never come up. Okay, ES Media had to stop by. Thanks for watching, appreciate it. Aminox asking how often I do sports, or how often do you do sports, or mostly Talking Heads productions? Most of the Talking Heads stuff is just what you're seeing here, my own YouTube content. I don't do much else of that. A little bit here and there. We do more in the music industry than anything else. Sports, it's been a while since we've done any sports stuff. The main problem with sports, at the level that I'm operating, before you get up to like an ESPN3 or something like that, there's just not a lot of money in it. So there's not a lot of clients that are willing to pay. Typically you're not going to find somebody that's willing to pay my rates at somebody like a high school. You probably need to get to like the college level. In my area, there aren't that many colleges that would need that don't have their own productions. We got 2 major universities within 15 minutes of where I live, and they kind of occupy the bulk of that market, and they have their own production teams. So it'd be hard for me to get on for those. Let's see. Multi-stage. If you stream, let's say, a DJ live set when they play commercial music, how do you handle the copyright and prevent YouTube and Facebook from mute the sound or stop the live stream? We actually covered this earlier in the stream. So basically, you're not going to be able to stop that. Your best recourse is to get approval from the artists and have them basically whitelist you, whitelist your channel. It's kind of a pain in the butt, and it's a real problem. Somebody in the chat room, unfortunately I forgot who, mentioned that if you live stream through Vimeo, that they don't mute copyrighted content. So maybe look into that. But if you go through YouTube or Facebook, you can almost guarantee that, not necessarily when the video is live streaming itself, but like the repeated plays, they probably mute or even take the video down. So not much you can do about it, unfortunately. Okay, Almanox, how long can you run the trailer off battery? I'm working with a setup with used Tesla batteries and inverter for my setup to give me full off-grid capability. That varies a great deal on how much equipment I need to run. If kind of the bare minimum, front monitor walls, switcher, recorders, I can go for about 40 minutes on the 2 batteries that I have. If I end up turning a whole bunch of other stuff on, that time does go down. And some of it varies based on the amount of sunlight that I'm getting too. Since I have solar on the roof, the solar does help to augment that. The solar can produce up to 400 watts. 400 watts is about how much my video switcher rack itself consumes. So it's not going to quite keep up in the middle of the day in the summer with a clear sky, but it actually helps significantly. For instance, I don't ever want to run off video. It's really there as a backup. And if we get to a point where we're having to run that long on video, or on battery, it's at that point we would have been better off just firing up a generator. So if we're doing a really critical event, I haven't had to do this yet, but if we're doing a really critical event where the power goes out and we need to keep going, a generator's the way to go. In most situations, if the power goes out, the video is the last of the problems that they're dealing with. In a lot of situations, you're dealing with live audio that's being produced or whatever. And if the power goes out, if they're down too, the video is the last of their concerns. So it hasn't been as important for a lot of the stuff that I've done as someone might think. But you also have to consider lighting. In a lot of venues, the lighting comes off of house power as well. So yeah, once that goes out, the video is the last of the concerns. So. Okay, Thomas Pedersen, what's your experience with the Terek Video Pro for a few-hour weekly stream? It's, aside from the firmware issues they've had for about the last year or so, it's been fine, but I'm having a hard time trusting Teradek with their firmware. The firmware that they released on other products for the last year or so has been pretty buggy and kind of unstable. Like even today, the original video that I'm using right now to do this stream, the YouTube integration is broken. So I've been really frustrated with Teradek. They claim on their Facebook page that they're going to do better, but I'm not holding my breath at this point. So anyway. Let's see. Okay, Danny, he used to work at the BYU Media. BYU is one of the universities that's just a few miles away from me. And since you've worked there, they've really upped their game. They're definitely heavy hitters for sure. They've got a really, really nice production trailer at this point at BYU TV. First class all the way. Let's say hello to the UK. It's always good to have people watching from around the world. Almanacs asking if I've done my alternative to Just Macros yet. I have not. It hasn't been a huge priority, but since Just Macros it's not totally gone away, but it's not being supported anymore. So there is a little more urgency to creating that software, and that is on my list of next projects to work on. So, all right. So, PJ Stefano, is the trailer provided with external facility, tent, gazebo, storage space, everything needed to prevent the weather? The trailer itself is weatherproof. It handles rain and so forth really well. I don't have a tent or anything to go along with it. I probably should. That's probably be something I had to add. Also considered adding an awning on the outside so that people can actually stand just outside the trailer and not get wet. It also helped with sunlight too, to help prevent some of the sun falling on there and keeping the temperatures under control. But so far at this point, I haven't done anything for that. Let's see. Yeah. Danny Grizzle talking again about the Epiphan encoders. I'm hearing good things about the Epiphan encoders. So right now, if someone asks me about what sort of live stream encoders to get, first one on the list would be the LiveU Solo. Everybody I've talked to that uses that loves it. And then the Epiphan, I hear the good things about that one as well. Teradek they haven't been performing very well for the last year or so. I'd have a really hard time recommending a Teradek product for live streaming at this point. So. All right, just got a couple more minutes. No more questions come in. I'll just go ahead and wrap up. But people that are watching this video, you guys are prime customers for my Crew Access website. And I know you're going to get tired of me promoting this, but one of the main reasons I promote it is because it actually is very, very useful, and it does help you run your business. I created it to meet my own needs as far as making sure that I have the crew that I need, making sure that I have the equipment that I need, making sure my finances are in order. The website helps me with all of those things. So, and I'm constantly adding to it. So if you haven't checked out crewaccess.com, please do. There's even a free plan there that lasts indefinitely. So, and if money is a concern, just get the free plan. As long as your productions stay under a certain side, the free plan will work just fine. But the site, I think, is probably the best version of one of those types of products that are out there. Some of the competitors there's only a couple competitors that are in that market, and they charge a heck of a lot more money. And at this point, I'm feature parity or have more features on my site than they do. And like I say, I'm constantly adding new stuff. I'm adding major new features about every 2 weeks to the site. So major announcements every couple of weeks on the site. So, so yeah, go check out crewaccess.com. I'm going to keep promoting it because I believe in it, not because I'm necessarily trying to make a lot of money off of it, but because I believe in it. So if you're running a video production business, and even now it's starting to branch out into other markets. So I'm starting to add features to allow it to be used for film production as well. So if you're in any sort of media production, the website crewaccess.com can be very, very helpful for you. So I urge you to go check that out. So when this video gets reposted, I'm going to include a link for discounted plans. If you go to the Crew Access YouTube channel, there's a new video that I just posted there this morning detailing some of the new features that have been added in the last few months. And in the comments, or sorry, in the description of that video, there's a link to be able to get a free 30-day trial for the paid plans. So you can get access to those higher end features for a little while without having to pay for it. So anyway, thanks guys for watching. If you have any other questions, be sure and leave those in the comment section down below. I'll try and answer those the best I can. I'm going to have more content coming pretty soon. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I've got a video coming up about LAN-C or LANC Zoom controllers. I've already prepared for it. I just haven't shot it yet, but that will be coming out probably in the next week or so. And I've got a whole bunch of other videos that are on the docket and planned and ready to go. So be sure and subscribe to the channel in order to see any of those. Anyway, thanks guys for watching, and have a fantastic day.